So now it's time to start with the HTML part of the project. So for that we need to use the index.html, slide.css and script.js file. These files I have already created to save a little bit of the time, and I have also launched the files, means the project, inside my web browser. You can see right now this is a tip calculator, and I have also opened the final version of the application, which is the tip calculator that we actually want to develop. And I have linked the CSS file and also the JavaScript file to save the time. Now the first thing is we need to actually wrap the entire code inside the container, just like we have did in many of the previous applications. So right now just I'm going to make some room here, and then first I will be here using the container, and then inside the container I will be place the rest of the code. So the first thing is we need a heading. So for that we will be using the h1 element. So it is like tip calculator. So if I actually come to the version of our own application, which is now, you can see the heading is visible to the screen. And after that I will be adding here another division element. This is for the input group. So we have actually 4 input groups. The first is the bill amount, second is the service rating, third is the number of people, 4 is the mail type. So we have to create 4 different input groups, all of them having the same class name, input group. So coming to the other version of the tip calculator, and inside of that, inside the index.html, I'm going to place here a class which is input group. Okay, and after that, here we need to specify the label. So the label value is actually like bill amount, and then inside of that, because it is a label, so we don't need to specify any ID or class. We are going to directly select the label by using its tag name. And then here we need to display the label, which is label amount. Alright, if I control save it, then you can see now the bill amount label is appeared to the screen. And then we need to add here an input. So the input type we are going to use here a number, and then we need to here use the ID, which is bill amount. Okay, and then we need to add the placeholder. So the placeholder, enter the bill amount. Okay, so this will be the bill amount for the placeholder text. So that marks the completion of the first input group. Then we need to create the another input group. So I'm going to here again create the division element, division, and then we need to specify the class name, class, then input group, and after that we need to here use the another label, like because we want to display the label, so that is why we need to use the label. So this one is for the service rating. Okay, so this will be used for the service rating. Then the label that we want to display is the service rating. Actually we want a capital one here, service rating, and also there is a space should be applied, and then a colon. Instead of that we need to use the select tag, because if you see the final version of the application, it is actually a select that has 4 options. So for that we need to here use the select tag. So again here I will be using the select tag. Then we need to specify the ID, because we don't need a name here. So I'm going to specify the ID as service rating. Okay, so this ID will be used inside the JavaScript part, and inside the select tag we need to create the option. So the first option is like our poor option. So the value that I want to give is 1, and the text that I want to display inside this particular option is the poor. Then I'm going to duplicate it to 3 more times, and I'm going to increase the value to 2, means change the value to 2, then 3, then 4. And here I will be displaying the like a service rating label, means the option average, and then here I will be using the good, and then inside of that I will be using the excellent. Okay, so that marks the completion for the second input type. Okay, and then it's time to create the third input type, which is this particular one, which is for the number of people. So coming back to the our own version of the application, and then coming back to the index.html. So here I will be creating another div tag, and inside of that I will be using the class input group. Then we need to provide the label. So the label for, we are going to use here a split count. Now this split count is actually a number of people. So it is like here we are going to display the number of people. Okay, and then we need to here provide the input type, which is like again a number, and then we need to here provide the id split count, and then we need to provide the placeholder text which is enter the number of people. Okay, so this is for the placeholder text for this particular input type. So that marks the completion of the input type for the split to count, which is the third input group. Then we need to create the fourth input group, which is the mail type. So I'm going to copy, even I just going to remove the copy one. I'm going to type it. I don't want to copy because sometimes copy gives problem. So here I will be using the input group. Instead of that, I will be using the label. And this one is for the mail type. So mail type, and then we need to actually here provide the text, which is mail type. Alright, and then we need to here use the select. So it's like select tag. Instead of that, we don't need a name. We need to provide the id. So the id is going to be like mail type. Instead of that, we are going to provide the options. So we are going to provide only three options: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So this one is going to have a value which is like breakfast, and then the text that we want to display to our option, which is also a breakfast. Okay, and then we need to actually duplicate into two more times, and here I will be changing it to lunch. Also the value I will be changing into lunch, and then we need to actually change the id here, which is like dinner, and then here we also need to change it to dinner. Alright, so now we are actually successfully able to create our all the input groups, which is the four main input groups. It's time to create the result section for this particular application, because the result section in which we are going to display the result. So if I actually enter some amount here, and if I enter a number of people and breakfast, and if I click on, so we are actually want to add these three elements as well. All of these three are actually a division element, and this button, and then this particular heading element. So again, coming back to the index.html. So here, after the input group, when the input group is completed, we need to actually create here another division. So I'm going to name this division as like class, and this is for the result division. Instead of that, I will be using the first h2 element. So this will be the result. We need to provide here a division element. So we need to provide the id. So it is actually a tip amount. Alright, and we don't want to display anything. Then again, I'm going to actually duplicate into two more times, and here I will be using the total amount, and then this one is for the amount per person. So this is for the result part. Then we want to place the button. So make sure you are inside the main container that has all the other elements placed. Means inside of the container we have placed all the other elements. So the last element that we want is the button. So we want to provide the button with an id, which is like calculate btn, and here we need to provide the text calculate. Okay, so that marks the completion of the code for the entire HTML part for the tip calculator application. Now from the next video onwards, we are going to start with the CSS part for this tip calculator application.